to Brewing Success, where growth is the mission, change is the reward, and progress is the goal. I am your host, Andrea Gebhardt. I'm a former educator turned passionate entrepreneur whose desire to create impact has never wavered. I've spent the last decade teaching, mentoring, and coaching people on how to create success in their lives and businesses with proven strategies and systems that not only bring about change, but big results. When it comes down to it, teaching is my specialty, leadership is my jam, and inspiring you to live a bigger, fuller life is what I'm all about. This podcast will give you the knowledge and tools you need to brew success in almost any area of your life. You're going to walk away each week feeling inspired, motivated, and ready to step outside your comfort zone and into the next level of who you're meant to be. Now let's get into today's episode. Yay, you're back as we walk through this 5-part series, and my hope is that it grounds you in truth, settles your entrepreneurial anxieties, and reminds you that as entrepreneurs, we all experience the same things. What I would have done for this information and this podcast when I first started out my journey as an entrepreneur, you guys, the challenges we face never get easier. We just get better. And the challenges never go away. We just learn how to navigate them more effectively. There's a resounding level of comfort knowing that you aren't alone on this journey. And with a solid understanding of a few key concepts, you can literally unlock any level of success that you desire. That is right. You hold the key. So let's start with part 4 of the Entrepreneurial Survival Guide. Part 4 is Normalize the Plateau. P.S. This is probably going to be my most favorite of all of this series because I am going to get to blow the top off the biggest myth of being an entrepreneur, business builder, leader, all the things. I hope you're ready for one of the most raw and unfiltered episodes of this entire series so far because we are going to get into it today. Let me just start by saying this. You know, when I first started my entrepreneurial journey, when I first started my first business, I was kind of led along this path to believe, and thank goodness for those people who cast vision and built belief and cast hope that my business was going to just continue to go and grow and that success was inevitable and it was just going to keep climbing and climbing. You know those little penguins that like are on that mechanical little stair stepper thing and they go up and up and up and up and up. They're like super cute. And they get to the top and they slide all the way down and they go about it again, right? It's kind of like what success looks like. And I remember I kind of like fell into this whole buying into the belief of this because that's what my business did. Month over month, over month, over month, over month, over month growth. And I'm talking like big, massive growth. Like created a 6-figure business in 4 months, created a 7-figure business in about 14 months. Like it just kept going and growing and going and growing and going and growing. And I remember the very first month, in fact, it was my 11th month in business where I hit my first plateau. The first time my business didn't grow, the first time our numbers didn't increase, the first time, we didn't outperform the month before. And I remember, in fact, that was December of 2013. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, it's over. Because if the growth stopped, it must all be stopping. I remember being so naive and so immature in my entrepreneurial journey, thinking like, what did I do wrong and what's wrong with me? I started to feel like a failure because nobody ever talked to me about the plateau. Nobody ever told me that at some point the progress is going to stop and you're going to reach this point where you have to change or the things you're doing have to change in order to go to that next level, which is why it's so important for me to talk about this with you because you're going to encounter plateaus. It is going to happen. It's totally normal. It's not you. It's a part of the process. And if I can give you all of that up front, like I could literally stop recording this episode right now. We could just stop right there. I could just tell you, but I won't because I have to like teach you things, right? Like, what I would have done to have had that information because I got so wrapped up in what I was doing wrong. I got so wrapped up in feeling like a failure, so wrapped up in doubt and fear and all these things that it took me a whole lot longer than it probably should have to climb out of that. So, one of the things I love about having success and the people who've walked before us is they're able to come back and give us insight and perspective into things that kind of serve as not shortcuts, because I don't believe in shortcuts, but a smoother path, right? And that's what I'm going to deliver for you today. So let's, I don't know where the myth or the lie or the exaggeration came from, but someone somewhere in entrepreneur land started this silly little rumor that building a business is linear, that success is one big fat upward arrow of explosive growth, that it's always winning season when you're an entrepreneur. And I hope to find whoever you are, because I'd like to wash your mouth out with a little bit of soap for speaking such crazy rubbish into the world, because it's the furthest thing from the truth. And it presents, this is the part where I really struggle, it presents such unrealistic expectations that are ultimately the root of why people quit, because they think it's not working, that they're not doing it right, that it's not for them, that because it doesn't match the picture that was painted for them, that it's time to exit the path to success and settle for less of everything. So let's set the record straight here. Success is not linear. Like, can you just say that to yourself? Success is not linear. Success is up and down. It absolutely is. It's an up and down kind of ride, the kind you need a lap bar and the over-the-shoulder harness for. Success is full of unexpected twists and turns and loops, abrupt stops, fast starts, sharp corners. Success is erratic. It's an up and down kind of thing that is full of periods of no progress, also known as the plateau, which is what we're going to talk about today. So if you've ever been in your journey and you've gone through like dry spells, you've gone through periods of no progress, I just want to tell you how normal that is. Can we just talk about how normal it is? I wish more people talked about how normal it is, because then we wouldn't feel like we're failing. We would understand it's just a part of the process. So let's work together today to normalize the plateau. This episode will change your outlook on the no progress period and help you see the value, the gift, and the true meaning and blessing of that periodic pause in your business. Please know and understand right now that you will not always be in a growth season in your business, meaning that all healthy businesses go up and go down. I was actually thinking about this the other day as I sat in a near empty restaurant. I looked around and there were like 3 people in this entire restaurant during a busy part of the day during lunch. And I sat there and I was like, I wonder if the owner felt as if the restaurant was failing or pending closure because of a low count of patrons in a day. And of course, the answer is, of course not. Numbers fluctuate. We can't control that. We can just control the way we consistently show up and the level of effort that we put in. So before we go any further, let me also make sure you understand another very important key component to this concept. Effort doesn't always equal results, but effort over time does. You see, most people quit on the down days, the down weeks, the down months, and the down years because they've been sold this dream that it's a straight shot to the top. And in all reality, let's face it, the whole idea or notion of I worked my face off for 5 years and got nowhere, and then one day, 5 years later, everything came together and now I'm a bajillionaire, doesn't quite have the same curb appeal as 12 steps in 12 months to millions. I mean, bottom line, you've got to learn how to get through long periods of no progress, also known as the plateaus, as it's necessary for success. Always remember that success comes in waves. Some sets deliver and some sets don't. But if you swim back to shore too soon, you will miss out on the wave of a lifetime. How do you know that you've hit a plateau? The growth has stopped. And even though your actions, energy, and effort has remained the same, you know it's a plateau when your numbers are no longer popping and you notice results starting to flatten out a bit. This is where most people begin to panic, but I want to encourage you to pause, reflect, analyze, and strategize what it is you will need and who it is you will need to become to go to that next level. You see, I believe that plateaus create opportunities for growth. Plateaus are where we land when more is required of us than we have in the moment. Plateaus serve a big purpose, And that purpose is to not only put your dream to the test, but to provide you with the time and the space to develop into the next level of who you are that will be required for the next season of growth that you are walking into. But again, this is where most people panic, they place blame, they freak out, and ultimately lose out because they walk out the moment it gets hard, the moment the momentum slows. But this, my friends, is where champions are made. So, I like to teach using analogies. So I want you to think of your journey as like a hike. And, I hope that you've all been on a hike or maybe at least a challenging walk. If you haven't, please get out into the world and go and explore. I'm sure there's something hikeable within 45 minutes of your house, but go do that soon, especially if you can't relate in this moment, because it's going to be so helpful to you. But if you've been on a hike before, you eventually reach a lookout point, or what I like to call a plateau. It's a place where the hike stops before it goes on to the next section. And what's interesting is, you're hiking and you're trudging along, and it's a little complicated, it's a little hard, you're a little bit winded. You had to slow your pace a little bit. You stopped and took some water. You had to be in a mental argument with yourself about whether or not you could continue or not continue. And then suddenly you get to this plateau. It's a nice flat space. There's some shade. You're able to look out into the horizon, which is really cool. But what happens is there's that next part of the hike, and usually it's a more challenging part of the hike. You're going to go a little bit higher elevation. You might be on a little bit steeper incline. There could be a little bit more treacherous terrain that you're encountering. But no matter what, when you get to this plateau, you know that climbing that next part of the mountain is going to require a different mindset. When you first start the hike, it's fun and it's exciting. You're like, da-da-da-da-da, you're skipping it first, walking briskly, standing tall. I got this. And you run into your first hurdle, incline change. You run into your first hurdle, some different, more challenging terrain. And then suddenly, your hands are on your hips as you're walking. You're breathing a little bit heavily. If you're hiking with a partner, the conversation stops because you're really having to focus on your breath. That's usually me. I'm like Chatty Cathy till it gets hard, and then silence, right? And you know that, you start out really positive and excited. You can already see yourself getting to the top, and the pictures you're going to take and the posts you're going to make and all that stuff. But then when it really starts to set in, you start to struggle there a little bit. So you get to this plateau. And you're taking this break and you're having this moment and you're recognizing that it's going to require a different level of mindset for me to get to that next level of the mountain. So we've got to adjust our mindset. You're going to recognize on this hike that it might require a different set of tools. You might now need to enlist the help of a walking stick or a walking pole. You might have to change your shoes out. You might have to, change out some of what you're wearing to make the hike more comfortable. You're going to have to utilize different tools to get yourself up the mountain. You're going to take a moment and you're going to rest. You're going to hydrate. You're going to fuel your body so that you can give it the energy it needs to make it up the rest of the way. When you get to that plateau, you look out and you have this opportunity to appreciate the view. I love that part. Last year in February, I took a group of people to Arizona, these really incredible women, these really phenomenal leaders, and we did this leadership retreat, and we scheduled this hike. And I love doing these types of things. I like to push people to their limits because there's always some kind of a breakthrough that takes place that gives this person permission to just really take a big forward step in life. And so we're on this hike, and it's called Tom's Thumb. Look it up. And it's 1,300 feet elevation, literally 2 miles up, 2 miles back. Doesn't look like a hard hike, but it was pretty challenging. And I remember we all got to the first plateau, and we're looking out at the scenery at the horizon. It's man, look how high up we are. Look at this. Look at how far we came. This is really incredible. In that moment, you celebrate the journey, and you're so proud of yourself, and you're my gosh, that's pretty amazing what I just did, and you get so excited, and you realize, well, I didn't obviously anybody could turn around at the plateau, right? Anybody could go back. And remember, we had a couple people in our group who were really struggling. And if you're listening to this, you know who you are. I love you. And I'm still so dang proud of you for like pushing yourself and doing something you'd never done before in a way that you had never done it. And we had a couple people who they could have absolutely been like, white flag, I surrender, I'm out. You guys have fun. I'm going to make my way back down at this halfway point, because if it's any harder than this, I'm not sure I can. And it's in those moments where when we get to these plateaus that we've got to like pull together and call in reinforcements of support to reinstill that level of belief that we need in ourselves. And, you know, I remember saying to both of them, like, you didn't just come this far to only come this far. You're halfway to something you've never done before. See how proud you feel right now. Think about how proud you're going to feel when. And we went along our merry way, and I'm proud to say that they both finished the hike, and it was incredible. It makes me almost emotional thinking about like that journey for them and what that was like. But you didn't only come this far to go this far, right? And so, you know, when you think about this hike, like you've got to reassess what tools you're going to need, what mindset you're going to need to make the second half of the hike. And let me just say this to you. I've had, you know, in all my 10 years of coaching and mentoring people, it's always this time that I love to use this analogy and help people realize this, because the plateau is such a gift, and it's such an opportunity for growth and for so much more. And, you know, when you reach a plateau in your business, I love it, because what happens is it's a good point for us to kind of like stop and pause and realize that everything that you know and everything that you've learned has gotten you to where you are right now. And it's going to require a different mindset. It's going to require different knowledge. It's going to require advanced skill set. It's going to require growth on your behalf to be able to take you to that next level. You can't take, you know, what you know and what you've learned has gotten you to where you are. It's going to require so much more to go so much further. We can't expect all of the past things to take us all the way. This is why I'm such a huge advocate for personal growth and development, for skill, you know, acquisition, for learning new things, for getting better at your craft, so that you're prepared for those plateaus. They don't catch up to you. Like, you get to the plateau, you take a hot sec, you assess, and you like, bam, you like going. And, you know, the people who don't do the preparation for the plateau, the people who are not in perpetual growth or not making perpetual progress, get to the plateau and it like blows them out. And so, you know, I want you to think about that, because like when you get to this place, it's what mindset are you going to need to adopt and instill? What tools or skills are you going to need to develop or get stronger in and strengthen to be able to take you to that next level, right? It's synonymous with like that resting, like taking a moment. A plateau is okay. It's not wrong. It's not bad. They happen. And hydrating yourself, fueling yourself with the knowledge, with the things you need to know, with the actions you need to put into place to take you to that next level. And I'm like, in the same idea and perspective, guys, when you hit that plateau, stop for a second. Look at how far you've come. Look at what you've created. Look at what you've built. You were never an entrepreneur before you were an entrepreneur. You had never done this before you had done this before. Like, this is all brand new. And you are building this thing from scratch. You didn't go to school for this. Nobody trained you how to do this. You are learning literally, like, hands-on in the moment as you go. Applaud your freaking self for getting this far and making it to this point. Take a look around and soak in the progress, the person you've become along the way. And at the same time, prepare yourself for where it is that you are going next. Because I'm going to say this to you, when you hit that plateau, and when it starts to feel a little heavy, when you start to feel a little bit like, oh, this doesn't feel good and I'm not excited about this, and it's weird when things aren't advancing and moving forward and maybe momentum has changed just a little bit, to say, like, I'm proud of how far I've come. Instead of putting yourself down, build yourself up in those moments. You know, you didn't come this far to only go this far. We don't stop here. We continue pursuing, we continue pushing, we continue personally developing, we continue putting in those efforts day in and day out, so that it all clicks and we get to move on to to that next level. It's, it's not about what you need to do, right? Because the same actions, like those basics that got you there, the actions are going to continue to carry you. We've just got to like deepen them. We've got to like advance our skill set. The same actions are going to continue to move us, but sometimes we have to think differently. Sometimes we have to show up differently. Sometimes we have to be more disciplined. Sometimes it requires a different level of commitment. Sometimes it requires like a different level of, goal setting and articulation to get us to that next level. It's not the actions necessarily, it's the way in which we do them. It's about who you need to become. And recently I had the opportunity to speak to and chat with a really incredible, strong, young, growing leader. And she was just like, well, my business just kind of like flatlined, it kind of plateaued. And I'm just sitting here trying to think to myself, like, what do I need to do? And what do I need to do different? And all these things. And, she even alluded to, she's like, I'm just like, what am I not doing enough of, or what am I not doing right? And I looked at her, and I'm going to say this to you guys too, because I think this is one of those things that you need to hear it. And I want you to carry it around with you and always remember it. It's not about what you're not doing right. It's about who you need to become. It's about who you need to become in order to help yourself advance to that next level, in order to take your organization to that next, level of success. I want you to use the plateau to make you better, not bitter, better. Use that plateau to grind and grow. Continue in the action, stay consistent, continue in the action, stay consistent. At the same time, focus on growing your mindset, your beliefs, your attitude, your energy, growing your confidence, growing your abilities at that same time. And eventually those two catch up to each other, and boom, you've got growth. Boom, you have collision. Boom, you have momentum start to take off, because you didn't take your foot off the gas just because, everything kind of seemed to come to the standstill. You see, most people get to the plateau and they panic. I want you to get to the plateau, and I want you to have a plan for what you're going to do when you get there. Because when you have a plan, you know that you have a manual for success. And I love that. There's a saying that God will keep you where you are until you learn the lesson. And I think that applies to business and leadership too. God will keep you where you are until you learn what you need to learn to make you better, to make you different, to grow you into who you need to be. You're not stuck, and it's not over. You just aren't who you need to be to get where you want to go. That should be exciting, because you can take charge of that. You can take ownership of that. That has nothing to do with anything outside of you, and everything to do with all of it inside of who you are to make this decision. I love that, because it's empowering and it's inspiring. And how excited are you to know that every day you're in charge of the level of progress that you make, even when you're in a plateau and you're grinding it out, and you're grinding and you're growing, and you're grinding and you're growing, for eventually those two things to click so that you can experience that next movement. So you are ready to take on that next part of the hike, so that you're ready to take on that next level of the mountain that's in front of you. There is power in the plateau. The plateau is a preparation zone. Don't ask yourself what you're doing wrong. Ask yourself, who do I need to become? And chase that energy. It will lead you to the right place and equip you with what is needed to lead you to that next level. Again, there's power in the plateau if you choose to see it that way. If you choose to leverage the slowdown, if you choose personal growth when nothing else is growing. So when it feels like you're failing and doing it wrong, remember that this is a part of the journey. It's a part of the ride. You've just got to learn how to navigate it with grace, courage, and determination. The pause is normal. The downturns are normal. The setbacks are normal. The struggle is normal. It's all a part of it. And it's these parts that make the story of success so rich and so inspiring. If you could just be excited about the struggles and the setbacks and the plateaus and the downturns, if you could just get excited and know that those moments, these things that are happening, they're not happening to you, they're happening for you so that you can turn around and mentor somebody else through the same challenge. So you could turn around and be a voice of inspiration to somebody who's going through the same thing and can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, so that you can prove time and time again that this is a part of the process, and with the right mindset and the right skill set and the right attitude, that you can literally overcome any challenge that comes your way and get yourself to the other side of it. You see, these things, that's why I call them gifts. That's why I call them blessings. Like, oh my gosh, could you imagine if you could just give gratitude? Like, I'm so grateful for the plateau I'm in right now, because it literally, hello, hand is up. This is me. This is me speaking to you, AG here. The mic is live. Me. I am in a plateau in my business currently. And I'm grateful for it, because it's stretching me as a leader. It's stretching my leadership skills. It's forcing me to learn things and acquire skill sets and, harness this level of myself I've never been in touch with, because I've never been where I am right now, leading the people I am right now. And I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for the leader I know I'm going to be on the other side of it. I'm grateful for the lid that's going to continually lift, because I'm continuing to grind and grow in this season, this plateau that I'm in. And it's normal. The one and only way you can ever fail in anything is if you choose to give up and quit. And well, that's not you. That's something you would never do, because you're a winner, because you're a champion, because you've already endured and overcome something 10 times more challenging than this little plateau and setback that you're facing. So take a deep breath, take in the view, and figure out what you need to make that next climb, because you've got this. Thank you so much for being here, for being such an important part of the Brewing Success community. If this episode resonated with you, please share it, tag me in your story, so together we can normalize the plateau and get more people back on the road to success.